I will share today about different programs that we have going on. A couple that I want to emphasize, and I'll try my best to share the most current information. A lot of these programs are developing. A lot of them have been here for a while, and so I appreciate everybody's support. And if you have questions, feel free to let me know. And yeah, so first I want to, and when I think about supporting working families, I want to start by thinking about everyone, um, from the little ones to the adults. And I know that families come in all different shapes and forms. And we work with a lot of families that our emphasis is families that really need the support, that are working hard to make ends meet. The first program that I want to start talking about is the Virginia Promise Partnership. I just want to share this picture. This was at the General Assembly earlier.
Oh, good. And if you'd like, I can share and you can just say next slide if that would be easier.
Yeah, maybe that would make my life easier, right?
Then you don't need to try to coordinate both. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. So while Sheila does that, I just wanted to mention that, yeah, in the last 2 or 3 years, we started working with the Virginia Promise Partnership to try to address the issue of childcare, and mainly focusing on families that need childcare in order to be able to work. Um,
Apologies. Yes, please.
looks so much better. Yeah, that was just a picture of we were advocating for more funding for childcare. There's if you want to go to the next slide, Sheila.
Yes.
Some facts, some statistics about childcare in Virginia. Just for your knowledge, Virginia's publicly funded childcare system only serves about 42% of all eligible children ages birth to 5. For families to qualify for this publicly funded childcare system, they have to be below a certain the poverty level and certain criteria to be able to qualify. But we learned that there are a lot of kids and families that qualify that just are not able to access childcare. And that's something that we're trying to address and recognize through this work. And currently, there are over 12,000 children that are waiting for this publicly funded childcare services in Virginia. In other words, they've done their part, they've applied, they've demonstrated through the paperwork that they qualified, but there's no spots. We're trying to address that too. There's a huge need for childcare and spots available. Another piece of information is that childcare is expensive. The averages are 4,560 for preschool age to 18,759 for infants. Again, I have 2 kids, so this is real. I remember we were paying for childcare, and the cost is equivalent to what I remember paying for college tuition when I went to college a while ago. So this is something that really can affect a lot of families with low incomes. And sometimes parents have to sacrifice, maybe only one parent is able to work while the other take care of the kids. They need to look for a family member, but we want to address this so that all kids have access to affordable and quality childcare. The estimate, based on what government recommends that one should budget for childcare, it is estimated that families need to earn between 208,000 and 267,000 per year to afford childcare. So we know that families working full-time minimum wage are not there. So not only do we want to work to raise the minimum wage, but we also want to address this issue of childcare. Next slide, please. Next slide, I think this. Oh, go back one more, maybe. Oh, there you go. Thank you. I think we can definitely share this PowerPoint. Going from childcare to child labor advocacy and resources. As you all know, the Virginia Interfaith Center has also been addressing the issue of child labor. And recently, we've been working with a couple of interns from the University of Richmond, the Honors Program, to help us create new resources to share with youth workers, with teenagers, young adults that are entering the workforce. We want them to know about their rights, and we want them to be informed, because we've seen a big increase in child labor law violations, and we're trying to address that through policy, but also through education. Next slide, please. Again, this is something that I pulled from VICPP's website, but it says that as a society, we want our children to learn good work skills and have employment opportunities, but not at the expense of their education or health. And in 2024, we put out a report titled The Rise of Child Labor in Virginia. And through Freedom of Information Act requests, we got some data on child labor violations that shows that cases have tripled from 2021 to 2022. And there was even an article in the New York Times that reported a 14-year-old boy who was maimed while cleaning a conveyor belt at a slaughterhouse in County, Virginia. So a couple of things here. We've seen just a huge increase of child labor violations when it comes to the hours. There's limits that of hours that children are allowed to work. Someone as young as 14 in Virginia, as 14 years old, can work. There are some exceptions in farm work and other places like that, but for the majority, kids that want to work at 14, they can apply for a youth permit. And as they get older, they're like a little bit less institution. But most of the violations, the big bulk is extended hours, overwork, kids working more hours, being scheduled to work more hours than they're allowed. But there's also the really worst case scenario where bad actors are really like employing children at prohibited workplaces, like cleaning the conveyor belt at a slaughterhouse is definitely not allowed by child labor laws, but they have cases like that. And next slide, please. We advocated for House Bill 100 in 2024 that it did pass. It increases the fines for child labor violations, and it provides the Department of Labor and Industry with some resources, like a staff person, put together a work group to try to address how do we share information and education for youth workers. We have seen that we still need stronger laws, more laws to protect youth, especially to educate and empower them, to report violations, and to support the agencies to enforce child labor laws. And I just want to pause here and say that the report that we did in 2024 was with a FOIA, looking at data from 2.5 years, 2020 to April 2023. That report of child labor violations was 539 pages. That's over 300 cases. We recently got a new FOIA, new data that we're processing for 1.5 years, so a little bit less time, but that report that we just got is 528 pages. So in other words, less time in the time frame and about the same amount of pages of violations. So clearly, the violations have not stopped. There's still a lot of child labor law violations. So we are thinking about what are some other things that we can do in the advocacy space, but also we want to educate youth. And next slide. Moving on to a different topic that falls under this. You might remember this lady, Kim Bobo. Before she left, she wrote a nice op-ed about paid sick days. And one of the good pieces of good news from our program is that this year we successfully got paid sick days bill to pass both the House and the Senate to the governor's desk. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed the bill, but we still think that this is going to set us up for a better year in 2026, hopefully. And this bill would create a standard for all Virginian workers to earn up to 5 paid sick days. And next slide, please. And this is important because everybody gets sick. There's still approximately 1.2 million workers in Virginia that have no paid sick days or no paid time off. So as you can imagine, this creates a crisis for low-wage workers who must choose between taking a sick day for themselves or their children or earning a paycheck. We are trying to work for next year in preparation for the next General Assembly. We hope that we will have a governor that will make this a priority. This bill gets to their desk. Thank you. Next slide. Another program that falls into this bucket is wage theft. Sheila and I work on a wage theft line. We have a system for online complaints to come through and also a phone number. Recently, I've been responding to a lot of calls of wage theft that is happening, especially to immigrant workers who are being cheated out of their wages. And unfortunately, employers are using the new, well, not new, immigration as a tool to fear, to scare workers from speaking up. But we still have a resource. We work with the Virginia Employment Lawyers Association. We typically, if somebody calls, we listen to the case, to the complaint. We support workers by calling the employer, sending letters to the employers. And sometimes that works when they see that we have the workers have advocates on their side. They see the VICPP. It might just be a conflict of misunderstanding, but they end up paying. But there are some cases where the employer will refuse to pay, will refuse to take any responsibility, and we tend to refer those cases to lawyers. Next slide, please. Thank you. In different cases of wage theft include not paying the minimum wage, not paying overtime, stealing workers' tips, not paying for all the hours worked, calling workers independent contractors when they are really employees, taking illegal deductions from workers' pay, and giving workers paychecks that bounce. Next slide, please. Moving to another piece of another program, there are a lot of things that we're trying to address, but we're also trying to recognize employers, and some of your congregations have been part of this program in the past. We've had a few hiccups with our webpage and our national partnership, but we're hoping that we get everything in a better place. Well, we want to recognize employers that are paying a living wage. We are part of a national partnership with Living Wage for Us, and we're trying to revamp the Virginia-based living wage certification program. Our national partners provide us great tools and great methodology to really think about what is a living wage, because with the cost of everything going up, with salaries staying stagnant, like we want to have access to tools and resources that help us really paint a picture. This example shows the map of Richmond, and from our national partners that have this calculation, they've shared with us that a true living wage in Richmond is would be paying $24.96 per hour, and this is based on just on an average two adult, 2 children family unit, just based on the average. And so the national partners offer two different levels. Their tier 2 or their highest level would be an employer paying $24.96 an hour, but they also have an entry level at $19 an hour for employers that demonstrate commitment. Next slide, please. And we've heard particularly from employers that have been part of the Virginia Living Wage program in the past that they're not there yet. They're obviously, yeah, costs are rising, but they may not be able to provide to pay their employees at those levels the national partners indicate. So what we're doing is we want to continue to recognize employers that are committed to paying living wages. We have a new application, and we want to recognize employers that are paying at least $15 an hour for aspiring and we can provide a sticker. People can put in their businesses or congregations. There's an application process, and we have a team of interns from the Bonner program that will help us through that process. And again, if employers are paying more than 15 an hour, if they pay the equivalent to the tier 1 of our national partners, we can give them a silver tier with us. And if they pay the equivalent of tier 2, we could give them the gold. And this is at no cost to employers. We just want to be able to recognize that. But if employers choose to apply for dual certification with the national partners, they have more tools, more resources. We can definitely help them with that. And we also want to recognize other benefits. Some employers have said, we're paying $14.75. We're not at 15. But we also provide health insurance, or we provide paid sick days or paid time off. In conversations with our intern and volunteers in this program, we want to also recognize employers that are providing those benefits. So if you're a congregation, or if you know of a business that is close to 15, but they provide paid sick days, they provide health insurance or retirement, or they're a second chance employer, those are all issues that we care about as an organization. We want to encourage them to apply and list those out so that we can try to give them some sort of credit. And, as long as they're in path to being paid wage, we want to recognize them. Next slide, please. Just trying to speed through this. I wanted to pause here and make a reference to something that is close and personal to me. I used to work at an organization that did a lot of advocacy and organizing with farm workers, and I have family members that have done farm work. Something that we worked on at the General Assembly last year this session was trying to remove the minimum wage exemption for farm workers. They're still exempt from minimum wage, and also try to address heat stress. Farm workers that work long hours under the sun tend to be exposed to just dangerous heat levels, and we try to work with our legislators to try to identify workplaces, industries that have workers that are more prone to become victims of heat illness. So next slide. So with that, I just wanted to briefly mention other issues that we support, that we're not leading, but we're supporting as part of the Economic Justice Program. That includes raising the minimum wage, removing the exemptions on low-wage workers like farm workers, supporting workers' rights to organize into unions, improving the overtime protections and employee retention laws that we were supporting. And yeah, the heat illness prevention, this is something that the VICPP has worked on in the past. And the goal is to work with the Virginia Safety and Health Codes Board to adopt regulations to establish reasonable standards designed to protect employees from heat illness, and to establish a list of high hazard industries. This will be a bill that we supported and will continue to support if it comes up. And then next slide. I'll just try to speed through here for sake of time. I'm going to provide my contact information. I'll definitely be following up with everyone down the road. But some quick ways that I wanted to mention that you can get involved, you or your congregation, your community. If you have a faith-based childcare center, if your congregation or your place of worship is connected to a childcare center, we want to connect with you. We want to talk about childcare as part of the Virginia Promise Partnership. If you have a youth program, if you do Sunday youth program, or if you have more of an ongoing youth program, we want you to help us bring this information to young workers about their rights, try to tackle the issue of child labor. If you're hosting or attending candidate forums, we want to ask candidates, both the gubernatorial and all the House seats, we want to ask them to make this a priority. Next slide. And if you know anybody that has been a victim of wage theft, maybe someone in your congregation, in your community, we are here as a resource. We can help them with a wage theft claim or refer them to lawyers. If you are an employer, your congregation, maybe you own a business, if you're paying living wages, we want you to apply to receive the living wage certification. I know I've been in touch with some of you already as we're reimagining, rethinking this program. So I hope to hear from more of you being connected to this program. And there is also another campaign that is taking off. This is being led by the Legal Aid Justice Center of Virginia. If one way that you can support farm workers this summer, farm workers working in the heat in the Eastern Shore, they've had a air conditioning units drive, collecting AC units that can be delivered to farm workers. Because a lot of times farm workers work in the heat all day, especially tomato pickers in the Eastern Shore, for example. And when they go home in the evenings, go to a house that doesn't have AC and they have no way to cool off or rest. All right, next slide. I just want to pause and highlight this event coming up. I just put this save the date together. But as I mentioned, our work in childcare is something that we're working on with our coalition. On May 12th, there's like a movement, a national movement called Day Without Childcare. But we want to host an event to invite congregations, places of worship, especially if we have a faith-based childcare center. We want you to join us. I'll send an invitation on May 12th, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. It'll be on Zoom. And we're gonna invite a couple of folks from the Department of Education and the Virginia Promise Partnership to talk about ways that childcare centers, if faith-based or religious exempt organizations, how the importance of applying for being part of the subsidy program so that more families, low-income families can qualify for that benefit and can get the subsidy to afford childcare, and navigating that application process and then advocating for more funding. And I think that's it. If the next slide has my contact information, I'll be happy to share this with you. I'll stop there and turn it over to Sheila. Thank you all for your time. I look forward to connecting with you to talk about supporting working families and economic justice down the road. I see another. Yeah, thank you. Last question that I see just pop up. The long waiting list for childcare is a specific lack of providers or lack of funding. I think it's a mix. I know that with the Virginia Promise Coalition, we're trying to address the funding. There's still a huge need for funding. It was a historic investment last year that avoided a financial federal cliff, but there's still a huge need for funding. But we also hear from providers that they have a hard time hiring teachers. So we're trying to look for ways to incentivize people to come into early childcare education.
Any other questions, thoughts, feedback on the economic justice priorities we've dug a little deep on?
I have a quick question. I'm not sure if you guys have the staffing capability for this, but would VICPP be willing to come to houses of worship to maybe table about the wage theft idea? Because I'm thinking like Islam has some pretty explicit requirements for like how to treat how you should treat workers and the relationship between business owners and workers. So could we do like an outreach campaign? Because I think wage theft, especially for our community, we've got a lot of refugees who don't know the laws, more likely to be taken advantage of, and then are going to have concerns about having their jobs protected. Is that something that VIC could manage? Maybe like one or two, a couple of mosques in the area, like after a Friday prayer, set up a table and talk to folks about wage theft.
Happy to, yeah, sure. Yeah, we have yeah, if you want to send us some times and dates, I have some cards too that we can leave out for people for sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I love that idea. Thank you all. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Enjoy this. Well, I don't know. It's beautiful weather where I am. I hope you're all having a nice, lovely weather.